For a great cup of joe, there's one thing you should know. Your morning brew can also be playful. Buff Boy Brewing guys make the temperature rise, and you surely feel naughty when you swallow our coffee. If you want some real heat, give your mouth a fine treat. You will want some more, rest assured. Buff Boy Brewing, you can't get enough of.
It's time for The Scribble, your weekly fix of celebrity chats, bizarre stories in the news, and basic random chatter with best-selling author and syndicated radio host Jeremy Bradley. Make sure your seat is in the upright and locked position and your barf bag is securely in place. Here's Jeremy Bradley.
Thank you very much, Larson. Jeremy Bradley here. This is The Scribble. All right, so on our radio shows here on the podcast, all you've been hearing about for the past couple of weeks is our 10-year celebration on the radio, right? We were in Mexico. You heard those segments here. And then last week we were playing some clips from the radio show as well. So this week we launched the website. It's 10years.ca. So 10 and then years.ca, 10years.ca. And we've got a whole bunch of archived clips from the radio show on there. We've got links to all of our red carpet events that we've done and the travel broadcasts that we've done. So definitely check it out, 10years.ca, and you can have a look. It was interesting to sort of sit down and take a walk down memory lane, because when you think about a decade, that's several years, right? All the stuff that you accomplish in your life are things that happen. So not only have I had my actual life, but I've had the business life, the entrepreneurialism as well, and certainly some crazy things have happened, and not like I would have expected if you would have asked me that 10 years ago. So again, 10years.ca. Now, you're going to hear the 2-hour show on that website if you do click on it, but we've got some of the celebrity guests from that show on the Scribble today. All right, we're going to play you those interviews. Now, Judge Judy, she's been on TV for 20 years, celebrated 5,000 episodes. 20 years, 5,000 episodes. I should ask her what her favorite case has been, right? No, actually, I was told, here's a funny thing. I was actually told not to ask that, because after you've done so many, it's like they all just mesh together. So I didn't ask her that, but I did have a good time chatting with Judge Judy. And then Nigell Lythgoe, So You Think You Can Dance, is back on Fox, and we've got Nigell Lythgoe on the show as well. So it's a very jam-packed podcast. We're going to take a break. We'll be back with Judge Judy right after this.
Ever had something to get off your chest but never had the balls to say it? That's a load of crap. Speak Free with JB.com is exactly what you've been waiting for. Your chance to tell it like it is and not care what anybody else thinks. Have your say on issues of the day. Join newspaper and radio columnist Jeremy Bradley as he tells it like it is. Hundreds of thousands of people have stopped by, including some well-known celebrities who have had a chat with JB and speak candidly about what's really going on in the world. You can join them too. Have a rant or a rave. Be brave and head on over to www.speakfreewithjb.com now.
Well, as we celebrate 10 years on the radio, there's a TV milestone to talk about. This week marks the 5,000th episode of Judge Judy. What an amazing run. So we've got Judge Judy Scheindlin on the line. Hello, Judge.
Hi, good morning to you.
Good morning. Yeah, I was hesitant there. Is it Miss Judge, Miss Scheindlin? What do you prefer?
You can do Judge Scheindlin, you can do Judge Judy, you can do Judy, you can do whatever feels comfortable to you.
All right, well, thank you. I appreciate that. So, what a long run for your show. It's been, 20 years, right?
We are in our 20th year, which is really sort of remarkable, considering that when I first started this process, I was hoping they wouldn't get the hook out after 6 months. You know, we started it as I was in my early 50s. It was a sort of third career for me. I've been in family court as a lawyer and then as a judge. And when, after 25 years, this opportunity came about, and I said, you know, you never know where an adventure is going to be around the corner. So we tried it. And here we are 20 years later. It seems like a heartbeat ago. That's
incredible. Now, I'm just doing the math here. I've got it that you started the show when you were 7 years old. So I guess 27 years old you are, right?
I would like to say that that's true, but I was actually 52 years old when I started the program.
Well, let's talk about that because, especially in Hollywood, we hear that, women don't get opportunities out of their, late 20s, maybe even early 30s. And here you are, the queen of daytime TV right now. So that's got to say a lot about the interest that people have in your program.
Well, I'm not an actress, and I think that the definition of what is, first of all, even in the Hollywood business, the real celebrity business, and I don't consider myself one of those people. I'm a sort of an anomaly in the business. But even in the movie-making business, women in their 40s and 50s and beyond, and 60s, are enjoying wonderful roles in movies, wonderful meaty roles in television production. I don't think that anyone should let their age define them. If you're good at your craft, whatever that is, there will be a place for you.
Absolutely.
And I'm lucky that I'm just very fortunate that I had a skill, which I was trained to do. I had a career, and I loved what I did, and I was pretty good at what I did, and I was given an opportunity to try it in a different medium. But I think that if you prepare yourself for anything, Jeremy, and if you prepare yourself and you become expert at it, people will find you in whatever business or career that is.
Oh, absolutely. And so, you've had, you just won the Daytime Emmy for Best Courtroom and Legal Program. You've been number 1 for 6 consecutive years. So, obviously, yes, the fans love you. Do you hear from them much and why they love the show? I know it's just entertaining to me, but do you ever hear specifics from people as to why they're tuned in day after day?
Yes. Some likely sort of throwback to lots of years ago when everybody understood what the parameters were and we knew what was right and what was wrong, not necessarily what was PC, but good behavior, bad behavior. Nobody made excuses for bad behavior. It was bad behavior. It wasn't because somebody was disrespectful or you weren't, you didn't get the 6 crayons in a box when you were 3. If you were naughty, you were naughty. Right. And you take responsibility for that, and then you put a period and you move on and you try not to replicate the bad behavior. That's really my message. And I think that there is still a longing for that, not only in this country, but in many countries, because our show is in some 130 countries all over the world, and does well and translates well all over the world. I think that there are a large number of people who really say, good behavior is good behavior, bad behavior is bad behavior. Let us not make excuses for bad behavior and reward it, and let's applaud good behavior. Let's applaud people who, lift themselves up and get a good education or get good jobs and support their families and nurture their children and lead responsible lives. Those are the people we want to celebrate. So I do hear from people, not only in this country, but all over the world, that seem to be comfortable with that message.
Seems like in today's world, it's strange how far we have not come. That we need some better manners and a little more decency, don't you think?
I think so, a lot. I don't believe in rewarding bad behavior, and I think there are certain things that you're supposed to do as a citizen, and as a parent, and as a child, and as a brother or a sister. Things that or as a grandparent that you're supposed to do with your family and your neighbors and your friends, and you don't necessarily have to be rewarded. The government shouldn't be in a situation saying, well, we're going to reward you for good behavior. No. We should applaud you, say, good job. That's what you're supposed to do. And we've gone far astray of that. And I think that more people than you think want to say, if we don't get back to some of those basic values of being a good citizen, a good parent, taking care of your children, taking care of your parents when they get old, actively participating, just because that's what you're supposed to do,
Okay, so I have a fan story for you. It's about me, Judge Judy, all right? So I watched your show. It was when I was a teenager. I was watching, and there was a little boy on there who kept saying yeah, and you told him to say yes. And I have never forgotten that, and ever since then, I have always said yes, and I even correct my nephews now. I just thought I'd share that story with you.
It's an interesting story. So what you really just said is how one person, because you listen to something and you said, you know, she's absolutely right. Yeah is a familiar street kind of response,
Right.
especially in a courtroom setting. And that made an impression on you.
It did.
I'll tell you a story that made an impression on me.
Sure.
And it's actually a good way to wrap this part of our discussion.
Sure.
When I was a little girl, we lived in an apartment building in those years, in the same building with my grandparents, my maternal grandparents, and two of my aunts and uncles. And my grandfather was in business, and he was a man in his 70s at that time. They lived on the 5th floor on one side, we lived on the 4th floor on the other side of the building. But on one of the Jewish high holy days, I noticed that my grandfather was taking the stairs to his apartment, which was on the 5th floor. And I said to my father, why is Grandpa taking the stairs on his holiday? And my father said, well, he's in business, and sometimes maybe he doesn't do always the right thing in business, and sometimes he cuts a few corners. So on this holiday, we ask God to forgive us for all our sins, and we don't do certain things that we're accustomed to doing, like taking the elevator and eating, you know. And as a very young child, I will tell you how that translated to me. That translated to me as, if I do the right thing all year, I can always take the elevator. One little story from, you know, I must have been maybe 8 or 9, but that said to me, you can't absolve yourself of all the bad things that you do during the year in one day. So it's probably the right thing to do, the smart thing to do, to try every day not to do anything that is morally wrong. Does that make sense to you?
It does.
It's just another way of, another story of the story you just told me. Yeah, it's disrespectful. And yes, makes you sound as an educated, respectful person in conversation. So I think that we all have the ability to touch somebody's life in a positive way. And I like to think that in some ways, the things that I do, not every day when I work, not even perhaps every week, but maybe once a month, I can touch somebody that they take something away, like you took something away all those years ago, and you took it, and now you're doing it generationally with your nephew.
For sure. It's absolutely right.
So that's really all you can hope you can do in a career.
Well, I think so. And especially, you know, when you see the types of shows that are on television these days, are you really taking anything positive away from most of them?
I think that there are too many shows that lauded bad behavior.
Right.
But if you are pandering to the lowest common denominator, then what you're going to get is a lot of lowest common denominators.
For sure. So what is your opinion on things like that? We always hear that video games, movies, television, music all have an effect, and that's why maybe the younger generations are a little bit more inconsiderate or violent and things like that. Do you agree with that? Where do you think that comes from?
Well, I actually place squarely on the shoulders of parents the responsibility to provide a moral compass for their children. And I think that blaming other things, blaming a teacher for not keeping a child inspired and therefore your child misbehaves, blaming a video for someone's acting out behavior, blaming a teenage television program for someone's teenage pregnancy, to me, just passes the buck. Would I prefer that they not be there to set any sort of example, or to say that we as a society sort of say, yes, that's reasonable behavior? Sure, I would prefer that they not be there. But I know that they're there, and I mean, I have children, I have grandchildren, some are older, and it's up to their parents to say to them, listen, this is a video game. This isn't life. You know, we live this kind of life in our home. Not just to say it, but to live it. Because children really learn from the closest example that they have. And if you are setting that moral example for children in the way you live your life, chances are your children won't be tainted by all the negative crap that's out there.
And I think that, you know, back in the day, when my brothers and I had different events that we were at, our parents were focused on watching us, encouraging us. And now I was at my nephew's soccer practice last weekend, and so many of the parents their heads are down and they're on their cell phones. They're not even paying attention. So I think that parenting has sort of shifted over the generations too, it seems. What do you think?
Well, if that's the description, I mean, it certainly isn't something that I've seen with, you know, my kids go to their children's lacrosse games and soccer matches, and they are engaged with, you know, in watching, engaged in being engaged with them. Some even coach the teams.
Right.
But certainly if your children think that you're disinterested in them, and they see everything, they see out of the corner of their eyes, they see behind, with the eyes on the back of their heads, they see all of that. And if they see that their parents are disinterested, then what they're going to do is, well, you're disinterested, so I'll use some of your pills. You won't even know. You know, you're too busy attached to your machine.
Mm-hmm.
I'll empty the vodka bottle and put water in it, and you won't even know the difference. So I think that if you're ready to have children, and if you make a reasoned choice to be a parent, you're supposed to be a good parent, not a fool.
Let's swing back to...
All make sense?
Absolutely, it does. Of course it does. That's why I want everybody listening right now to take note of these things. But let's swing back around very quickly. I finally want to ask you, if somebody is coming on Judge Judy, onto your show, into your courtroom, what are some absolute musts and must-not do's when stepping into Judge Judy's courtroom?
Don't come looking as if you're going to a beach function.
Okay.
That's the worst, because, and I'll give you just the fast, because you only have one chance to make a first impression.
Right.
And that's when you're walking down and taking your seat.
Okay.
So if you look as if you're going to a beach, I'm not going to take you seriously.
Okay.
That's my first impression.
All right.
And what is the do's? The do's are, be prepared, have your evidence, in my courtroom or any other small claims courtroom,
Mm-hmm.
and tell the truth.
I was going to say, you
Easy.
after all this time, you must be able to spot a liar, like, from a mile away.
You can't always, but the general rule of thumb is if the story doesn't make sense, it's usually not true.
Judge Judy airs in syndication on all over the world. You said 100 and some countries all over the world, right?
We do.
All right. Well, so people will check their local listings, and celebrating 5,000 episodes, Judge Judy Scheinland, thank you so much. It's been great chatting with you today.
Thank you. It was a joy. Thank you, Jared.
Great.
Bye now.
Thanks. Take care.
Isn't it crazy that you wait for payday, but before you know it, you're strapped for cash again? It's time to stop blowing your money and become a smart spender with the book, The Official Guide to Being an American Cheapskate, at cheapskatebook.com. Learn simple ways to cut costs at home every day and during special times of the year. Don't go broke at Christmas. Don't remortgage the house for a fancy vacation. The book is filled with tips to save you money throughout the year. Check out the best-selling book, The Official Guide to Being an American Cheapskate, at cheapskatebook.com or on Amazon and iTunes.
JB here, back on the Scribble. All right, so we've got two of those segments from our early radio days, and I got to tell you, I really didn't have a good delivery, and our sound quality wasn't the greatest, so let's keep that in mind, because we're also going back 10 years. So here is where I call a phone sex line, because, well, you'll hear. Have a listen.
Who are the Kardashians feuding with now? What did that little thug Justin Bieber do this time? Who's getting hitched? And who's headed for Splitsville? Hear the latest celebrity news and gossip every day on Entertainment Wrap-Up. The good, the bad, the ugly, but mostly the ridiculously hilarious. It's all recapped in this daily segment at entertainmentwrapup.com. Have a laugh at the expense of the rich and famous when they take themselves way too seriously. It's 3 minutes of time-wasting fun at entertainmentwrapup.com. Check out Entertainment Wrap-Up at entertainmentwrapup.com. Brought to you by Speak Free Books.
Get your dancing shoes on, because So You Think You Can Dance is back on Fox. We've got the man himself, Nigell Lythgoe, joining us on the line to talk about the latest season. Hi, Nigel.
Hi there. How are you, Jeremy?
I'm good, thanks. How are you?
I'm fine.
Good to hear. So I guess it's going to be Lucky season 13, right?
I'm hoping so.
Yes. So the show returns to Fox on May 30th, and so this season you guys are mixing it up a little bit. Younger dancers this time around, I hear, right?
That's right. It's the new crop, if you will, and they are absolutely stunning. And there are certainly one or two that are equally as good as any of their older counterparts, if not better.
Well, there's also just something, I think there's just something much cuter seeing kids dance and be really good at it, don't you?
Yeah, I'm not sure. I mean, I think what they say a lot of the time is cute.
Yeah.
But how they're dancing, I can't actually describe as cute because it's so damn good.
True.
Now, when you see somebody do 7 pirouettes straight into a layout, that's not cute. That is just remarkable. So I think cute in how they answer you and just brilliant in dance performance. And so many people have said to me, how are you going to get the sort of emotions out of these kids that their counterparts, their older counterparts do? Because you've dealt with depression, you've dealt with addiction, you've dealt with breast cancer. How are you going to do that with the kids? Well, listening to the kids' stories, it's quite remarkable of what they've been through in their lives. You're talking about broken homes, you're talking about parents that may be alcoholics or drug addicts, and they've seen an awful lot in their short lives, and the best way that they can express themselves is through dance.
Well, I think what's incredible, too, is that they've had such a dedication to the craft at such an early age, because when you're a kid, it starts when you're a teenager, you start to just, be a little bit careless when it comes to things, and you can't commit to, even having a pet sometimes. But these are kids who've taken dance really seriously from an early age.
That's right. There's very little else in their lives, to be frank. As you become a teenager, there are other things that come into play. But when you're this age, you are heavily focused on dance and dance training. But it's obviously, for a program like So You Think You Can Dance, it's more than training and technique. It's about personalities too. And I think you'll find, if you watch the program, that these kids have incredible personalities.
On the flip side of that, is there an age limit in terms of how old someone can be to try out?
Yes, we're 8 to 13. But don't forget also that the All-Stars are there. The format of the program, if I explain that to you, might help your listeners. And that is both Paula Abdul and Jason Derulo assisted me in going around the country and choosing 100 dancers, which we brought back to our academy. Then we leave it alone, and in come 10 All-Stars. And out of that 100 dancers, the All-Stars choose one that they want to mentor and dance with across the competition. And that means, obviously, that 90% of the young dancers are cut during that week of the academy. And now we're in a situation where each one of the All-Stars have chosen their dancer.
Right, and then on the judging panel, I was going to say you have a young judge joining you this season, Paula Abdul, right? No, I'm kidding.
I'll tell Paula that. She'll be very happy.
All right, well, we just scratched one guest off.
Maddie Ziegler joining us.
Right. And so for those who aren't familiar, who Maddie is, just to fill everybody in.
Maddie is the young girl that's been representing, that's fabulous, Sia Chandelier song. She's
right.
Sort of, I suppose, Sia's muse.
Now, as we watch the auditions, let me just go back. So Paula Abdul, Jason Derulo also joining you on the judging panel this season, right?
Yes, yeah, that's right.
Okay, so as we watch the auditions, and I'm not asking for any spoilers, but who should we watch for? Either for a good reason or bad reason. Who jumps out at you that when we see it, we'll say, okay, that's who Nigel was talking about. That's what he meant.
Well, I will say there is one young lady that I think is one of the best dancers I've ever seen. So I'm just going to leave it there. But each one of them brings something different. You know, they've all got different genres. They all have to do each other's genre as ever, as you know, with the So You Think You Can Dance format. But it isn't just going to be about them. It's going to be about how they act and interact with their all-star. You know, I think this season the choreographers are going to have to be very clever in how they, do their choreography. I don't want it looking creepy, and at the same time, you know, in ballroom, these young kids have been dancing with their mentors for years now and look fantastic. So I think it's going to be very interesting in how the choreographers work.
In your opinion, what is the hardest style of dance to learn or even to master, whether you're old or young?
I think that's a tough question because it depends on your body and how that acts. For me, I would have said tap is very difficult. It requires such a rhythm, ankle work, and to just get the right tone of the taps. But at the same time, if you're, it's not easy to do ballet. It's certainly not easy to spin on your head or, break dance. I think it was only called break dance because you break your bones if you do anything wrong. So there's lots of different forms, lots of different styles. I think to master them all is obviously the most difficult.
So in terms of all-stars, now I have to know who is on your list. If you could team up and dance with anybody, who would it be and what style would you perform?
I think Cyrus. I love animation. So he could teach me how to do that properly. I think that would be great.
So maybe for the season finale, huh?
I've done one finale with the tap routine with Debbie Allen's kids, and that half killed me, so I might just back off.
So if you can describe the competition, the contestants this season in one word, what would it be?
Wow. Exciting.
Okay. All right. So we're going to be watching So You Think You Can Dance. It's back on Fox on May 30th, right?
It is indeed.
All right. So everybody can check your local listings for the times. Nigell Lythgoe, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you so much, Jeremy. Lovely speaking to you.
It's never too early to start thinking about your next holiday. Have you checked out Mexico recently? From tequila tasting, swimming with horses, to ziplining through the jungle and watching whales and dolphins in their natural habitat, Puerto Vallarta has it all. Visit mexico.jbonair.com to see all the fun PV has to offer. That's at mexico.jbonair.com for hundreds of photos, interviews, and videos from around the tourist hotspot. Check out mexico.jbonair.com for all the fun. That's mexico.jbonair.com.
We hear you chirping. Get scribbling. Tweet up the Scribble at The Scribble Show. Join the discussion with Jeremy Bradley. It's all going down right now on Twitter at The Scribble Show and at thescribbleshow.com.
Jeremy Bradley here, back at the controls on The Scribble. Thanks so much for tuning in. And again, 10years.ca, 10years.ca, and you can have a look back at our top of the charts 10th anniversary celebration. As I mentioned at the top of the show, we had 3 weeks from Puerto Vallarta, Mexico, which was, when you think of a vacation, first off, you think you go for a week, maybe 2 weeks, right? But sometimes you just want to get away for a couple of days. It was a little bit much for me. 3 weeks of stuff in Mexico, and then we had the big Celebrity Bash earlier this week on the radio. So next week here on the podcast, you're going to hear from Margaret Cho. She's got a new album out. And then O-Town is kicking off a tour this summer with 98 Degrees and a couple other artists from the past. And so we've got Margaret Cho and one of the guys from O-Town joining us here on The Scribble. So again, our website is thescribbleshow.com. You can follow along on Twitter as well, at The Scribble Show. And then my own Twitter is at SF Celebwatch. SF as in Speak Free. Celebwatch. SF Celebwatch. We've got those entertainment headlines whenever you want them. The celebrity news and gossip. Everybody loves talking about it, right? As much as people say, oh, I hate the tabloids, you know what? You still read the headlines. You still read the cover when you're standing in the checkout. Don't lie to me. I will call you out on that. Even if you don't believe it or you just roll your eyes, you still read it. And so people still listen to when we talk about it here on the radio. This is a podcast where we talk about it on the radio as well. That's at entertainmentwrapup.com, entertainmentwrapup.com, and speakfreecelebwatch.com for all of the celebrity guests that we've had on top of the charts and the open road. Speakfreecelebwatch.com. I am vamping and just being a link whore. That's what we call it. I will talk to you same time, same place next week here on The Scribble. Until then, my name is Jeremy Bradley. Bye-bye, everybody.
Want more Scribble? Check out thescribbleshow.com for past shows, celebrity interviews, cheapskate tips, and more. That's at thescribbleshow.com and on Twitter at The Scribble Show. The Scribble is a Speak Free media presentation.
If you want some real heat,